Sup people, this is Strider, here before you today with a 3.1 Abyss League starter build that I used and found to be very fun for mapping and currency farming using Freezing Pulse. I'm still progressing through the Atlas, but so far I haven't had much of a problem up to red maps with just the 5-link. I was able to take down the first tier of the Elder and his Guardian with a little bit of trouble, but for the currency I invested into the build, I am quite happy with the result and I wanted to share my build with you. Some things that did pique my interest for using Freezing Pulse were the addition of the new Abyss Jewels, which means you can stack lots of added cold damage to spells, which is multiplied thanks to Freezing Pulse's damage effectiveness trait. The removal of Reflect on monsters, now replaced with physical or elemental thorns, and Reflect only existing as a map mod, means you can run through maps without the fear of possibly punching yourself in the face. Bosses are now no longer immune to freeze as well, so that means critting them will cause them to be slow to a minimum amount. And then you combine that with the Inquisitor Ascendancy, being able to ignore elemental resist on crit, makes for some decent damage for a single target. Our main defensive mechanics involve using Mind Over Matter, a healthy life pool equaling about 6k effective health with room for improvement, and constant freezing of enemies to reduce the opportunities for them to hit us. Overall, Freezing Pulse is just a satisfying skill to use for me. I wasn't blowing up single target bosses, but mob packs just get destroyed and the momentum you can gain from killing monsters just feels good. So I do recommend trying this out. So let's start with the leveling strats, and honestly I would not use Freezing Pulse until you stack more crit, because leveling with crit is way too inconsistent and you're better off using something like Firestorm or whatever is effective with Elemental Overload until about level 50 to 60, where you can use the Threshold Jewels and add some flat cold damage from the Abyss Jewels. If you are insistent in using Freezing Pulse, then just try to find added cold damage anywhere you can, such as your weapon or Abyss Jewels, and use a Diamond Flask as soon as possible. I used Warlord's Mark with Blasphemy to leech HP and mana, and I kept this set up until I found any boots on PoE trade with the Lab Leech enchant. Let me show you the tree. It's very similar to other cookie cutter Inquisitor trees that you'll find out there, such as EK, so if you do feel ripped off with Freezing Pulse and you want a refund, then you can move the points for the physical and the leech nodes near the shadow tree pretty easily. This tree is under just 200% life, about 194% to be exact. Got very decent life regen and mana regen for your Mind Over Matter, and 6 jewel sockets in total, which are going to be very strong this expansion thanks to the Abyss Jewels I mentioned earlier. As 2 jewel sockets are being used up by the Threshold Jewels, you're going to want to grab every socket possible as well. So I started off going left first towards the elemental damage, the spell damage, and all the life around here. The jewel socket is optional, but you can grab that if you want. But the priority is pathing your way to the shadow as soon as possible to grab as much dexterity as you can so your skill gems don't struggle with the leveling process. I didn't get to the Scion Life Wheel until roughly after Act 5, after getting Coordination. So you want to grab this along the way and then move on to here, up to Coordination. If you're not going crit, then this is probably better, and then you can respec out that later. Then you should move down to the Scion Life Wheel, grab all these. And after this, you can start transitioning the crit by grabbing the extra crit nodes everywhere, such as up here. You can grab these as well for extra damage, crit. Basically, it's all off the path, which you can easily grab and make the switch pretty soon after that. If you do want to switch to Freezing Pulse earlier, you can grab these jewel sockets or the thresholds and get those rolling as soon as possible. That's all up to you if you want to do that. And then after this, finish up the top here with these points. These don't make a difference. The only reason I'm missing one here instead of up here is because I did try another build and I just completely respec'd out of it. So it doesn't make a difference. It's the same amount of life. And yeah, past 91, extra power charge, just highly recommend that one. And the flask nodes if you want instead. But 91's probably when I'd say the whole tree's complete and you're basically done with the character. And for the bandits, I recommend getting the 2 extra points because the tree's a very tight fit and you're going to need every point. But if you do want to use Alira, that's very good as well. I do struggle with crit multi on this tree. I've kind of had to fill it all up with the Abyss Jewels instead. So if you can find 2 points to give up somewhere, then go for it. However, I don't recommend giving up to a jewel socket to get Alira. So for the gear, The chest piece I'm using and the one I highly recommend is the Impulse's Broken Heart. Basically, if you crit and shock an enemy, you will gain up to 50% increased damage based on your roll for the chest piece. And then those enemies will explode to other nearby enemies for percent of their max life. The most important roll is the increased damage when you shock recently, because that can roll between 25 to 50%, and that is a huge difference. So make sure you're on the lookout for that. The life roll is probably just as important, especially in hardcore. My one is the second lowest. I think it goes between 60 to 80. There's definitely room for me to grab more health. Yeah, if you are in hardcore, I would say definitely keep on the lookout for that. The last two, increased effective shock and the max life explosion, it's not a big deal. But most of the prices are going to be based off the first two stats. In softcore, I bought mine early for 15C. I think you'll still be expected to pay around 20C for a good roll chest piece. In hardcore, maybe a bit more, but it's all still very affordable. I did jump on this item pretty quick, so I didn't do many maps without it, but to start, I just bought a white base 5-link, alked and scoured a few times until I got some life and resist. And that'll last you a while until you save up enough to buy the impulses, really. You should be able to still breeze through maps, just because all the damage you'll have through the Abyss Jewels. So the other unique I did find very fun and interesting to use is the Lightpoacher. It's the new Abyss helmet, and it does come with an Abyss Jewel socket, and the Spirit Charge healing lets you jump in closer to utilize Freezing Pulse's point blank mechanic for more damage. Basically, whenever you kill something, you get a Spirit Charge, and whenever you use a skill, you're just firing out projectiles from all directions from you. And it does a lot of damage. It's a physical spell projectile, so it does scale off plus spell damage and any other damage increase to spells. And it probably synergizes better with EK, but you're going to be firing out all ends regardless. Really, you could use any damn skill with this helmet and just clear ridiculously fast because it's so broken right now. But other than that, I was still clearing everything comfortably without the helmet, as you get a lot of increased damage from the Threshold Jewels, the Abyss Jewels, and Impulses increase, which combines to a huge amount of damage. My tooltip right now is 52,000 unbuffed. That's not with 20 gems, still leveling them. But that tooltip basically doubles, or even, I wouldn't say triples, but 2.5 times more in particular circumstances. So yeah, it's a pretty good once you start killing things and picking up momentum. For everything else, your weapon, spell damage, crit multi, attack speed, alter spells. Just prioritize crit and attack speed to make your shield charge feel smoother, and at least one source of plus lightning spells to trigger shock if you're using impulses. My plus lightning to spells is just some Abyss Jewel. I have been considering added lightning damage for a more reliable shock, but I'm still testing that, so if you guys want to try that as well, go for it. And one thing I should mention is, with the Abyss Jewels, you'll notice that you can roll much higher values for damage to spells while holding a shield instead of just in general. So let's see, I have 18 to 24 cold damage to spells while holding a shield. I don't think you can actually roll that with just cold damage to spells, so you're always using a shield, so try and keep the lookout for those when you're searching Abyss Jewels. And really the most important thing you're going to need is the Leech Lab enchant on boots, which lets you recover life and mana on hit, and it's really the main source of leech for spellcasters right now. See, I bought these for 1C, nothing special. I can actually put more life onto it, but I bought these very early, so I was kind of struggling for resist. Just get movement speed, leech, and then anything else is a bonus really. Other than that, it's all standard. Life, resist, really flexible, just try to stay resist capped. These are just resists. I found this for like 2C, nothing special. You can find Abyss belts with plus 90 life everywhere. I've had this since like level 50, it's just got a lot of life with this. Same with this. My old shield actually had more crit but less life, and I just bought this shield for about 4C. All the upgrades are really really cheap, so I wouldn't worry about it at the moment. But right now, all the flasks are basic as well, nothing special. Instant life recovery. I like to use Basalt. You can use Stibnite as well. Quicksilver with movement speed, a diamond flask, and a silver. Sometimes I'll use a mana flask and switch it out if I'm dealing with tougher situations, because my mana regen is not the best. 60, so yeah, sometimes a mana potion really helps me just get mana back and leech everything. So with the links, I recently did manage to obtain a 6 link, but I had a 5 link up to tier 11 maps. So at the moment, for just 5 link, I was using Freezing Pulse, Spell Echo, Control Destruction, Increased Crits, and either added Cold or Ice Bite. For your 6th link, you have a few options. Right now I'm trying out Hypothermia for the more reliable freeze and more damage against hits with ailments. You have added lightning damage for a secondary source of elemental damage as an Inquisitor, which is great. A more reliable shock as well. You have faster projectiles, which can make your freezing pulse travel further. And I was interested in trying volley, but I haven't been able to test it too much yet, just because the other links I think are better. But if you want to try that out as well, feel free to. I haven't done too much exploring with that just yet. You can use Ice Bite in other links as well. Before the Lightpoacher, I did have it with my Freezing Pulse, but you can try it with Herald of Ice, Curse on Hit, Assassin's Mark, and then you just have a 4 link. But then I've moved it to the Lightpoacher since then, because the Lightpoacher actually does a considerable amount of the killing for me, so I'm generating a lot of frenzy charges there. For single target, I like to use Orb of Storms, increase crit, power charge on crit, sometimes Arcane Surge, but I think I like the Lightning Golem better, so I'm going to leave it in there. You can, however, take out Decoy Totem, which is what I'm using, and just chuck the Lightning Golem in there and put Arcane Surge. But I do like this Orb of Storm setup. It's really reliable for single target. You always have power charges up, so you have a higher chance of critting and just doing more damage. Because with the Lightpoacher, it uses up space because the support skills actually affect the projectiles of the Spirit Charge. So for that, I've got Ice Bite, GMP, and increased crits. I'm kind of running out of space there. In fact, I had so little space, I just had to get some random unset ring and put Vile Clarity in it and just another utility skill gem. And for your movement, pretty obvious, shield charge, faster attacks, fortify. That's super important. I've done the defensive mechanic, cast when damage taken, Immortal Core, Warlord's Mark. So nothing too different there, just like level 2, 4, and 6. You can keep it at level 1, doesn't make a big difference. If you do want to use the Lightpoacher, yeah, you're gonna have to find space to put all of these. It's up to you, really. The only problem is I don't have a consistent Arcane Surge right now, and I do really like Decoy Totem, so I'm still weighing up whether I should get rid of Decoy Totem for Arcane Surge. But all in all, I had a very fun time with this build, and it surprised me how much damage it can quickly rack up when you start killing things. I'd say give it a try for sure. You don't take my word, doesn't matter. I think you're missing out on something pretty fun. Everyone knows what Freezing Pulse is like. It's always felt like a great skill to use, but always ends up dropping off compared to other similar skills. Frostbolt's just way safer from the long range, and EK is just faster clearing speed and scales better off stuff. But I think with these new flat damage sources, you can really make it compete as an excellent map clearer. So thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my first video, and please check out my stream at twitch.tv/striderace21. I put up path of building paste spins in the description for you guys, and everything else you need to know. So play around with it, see what you like, and just mix it up. This build can change around pretty easily. I do recommend trying to get both those uniques I mentioned as you progress further, and they're still pretty cheap to buy. And if you do end up getting a Lightpoacher, like I said, you can throw any other damn hell skill you want in there because it's just overpowered right now, really. Although in saying that, I haven't explored any of the other new uniques. Since I don't know if they're better. I just haven't felt the need because these two have basically done everything I've needed to right now. So if you had a positive experience with the build, that's great. A lot of my pre-planning didn't come to fruition as I'd hoped, but the build still exceeded my expectations. So that's it for today. Be safe, everyone. Try not to get into too much trouble for my next video. Hopefully I catch you on my stream. And follow my damn channel, will ya? Thanks. I'll catch you guys next time.